Jerusalem, if I forget you, fire and gun come from it. Jerusalem, if I forget you, let my right hand forget what it's supposed to do.
My name is Imad Aboushi. I'm part of the Outreach Committee, one of the committees at the Noor Islamic Community Center.
I'm Rich Nathan, and I'm senior pastor of Vineyard Columbus, which is a church in Westerville, a non-denominational church.
My name is Rabbi Leanne Kopians. I'm the Director of Religious Life here at Ohio State Hillel.
I was born in Jerusalem and I grew up there. So it's my hometown, it's where I grew up, it's where my family still lives, my ancestors. Jerusalem was the first place when the Muslims prayed, they directed their faces towards the city of Jerusalem. The other thing is, it has the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is considered the third holy place as far as the Muslims.
You know, Jerusalem's important to me. I'm raised in a Jewish family, certainly having become a follower of Jesus and believing that Jesus is in fact the Jewish Messiah. Jerusalem is the site of, you know, most things that are precious to me as a Jew and as a follower of Jesus.
Jerusalem was the original site of the Holy Temple in the Jewish faith and in Jewish history. And so that was the place in which Jews communicated with God, in which all their their festival celebrations and pilgrimages took place. The Jews' return to Jerusalem represents their return to sovereignty, and it represents their return to control over themselves as a people and control over their own land.
Palestinian Christians and Palestinian Muslims and other Muslims, of course, are being walled out. Palestinians and Israeli Jews are really more and more separated from each other. So there's, you know, an increasing alienation.
Generally, it's not advisable for Jews to travel into the Arab quarter. It's also important to say that most of the Jews who live in the Jewish quarter are super Orthodox Jews, which means that they're easily identifiable just by their looks. And so I think that really prohibits that sort of interaction because tensions are high in that area of the city.
It's, like they say, it's bottom line is occupation. For example, we had a house, we had some land, living there. Now this land is confiscated because it's in a good spot of a city, and people who had no right to be there, who just because of their religion being Jews, grew up and lived all their life in like Russia, could immigrate to Israel, and they have the right to this land and live there. It's, you know, that's talk about social fairness. It's not right at all by any standards.
Certainly, the expulsion of Palestinians from their homes. The fact is that 1948 was just a huge dividing line for Palestinians and Israelis.
I think it's really simple. I think that what I said about Jerusalem's importance to Judaism is true for its importance to other faiths. That is to say that it has religious significance, and that it also has symbolic significance that comes from that religious significance. When you have roots of importance for a faith, that it becomes something that is much more than about peace or understanding. I think it becomes a part of the story of who you are as a people, and so it becomes much more fiercely important to you than it would be otherwise.
Social justice is you'll see it as a big part of the Islamic rules. Growing up there is a prime example of social injustice. The things, the shackles they put on you as a Palestinian, in your life, in your economical situation where you get strapped, you have economical pockets are isolated, so there's no inner commerce going on, trying to suppress the economy there, creating high unemployment. So if there was some social justice going on there, the Palestinians probably won't be as fired up to fight against occupation. So, because the driver will diminish. If I'm living there in respect, if I'm living there feeling that I have the same rights as this guy next to me, regardless of our religion, then you start rationalizing things differently. But as long as there is social injustice, there's always going to be tension.
Social justice is fundamental to both Jewish and Christian faith. And then social justice is really at the heart of this issue. You know, how we relate to the other, the person who's not, you know, part of my group. And one of the things that I discovered when I was there is that there are very few folks who are able to transcend their own national boundaries and walk in the shoes of another person. But that's really at the heart of what, you know, would bring healing, the ability for a Jewish person to truly walk in the shoes of a Palestinian, either Christian or Muslim, and the ability of Palestinians to walk in the shoes of an Israeli, and particularly to walk in the shoes of a Holocaust survivor.
Social justice and considering the needs of other people is of paramount importance in Judaism. It's absolutely central to what it means to be a good Jew. And I think that the consideration of social justice in this conflict is so complicated because it is such a Jewish value, and it's right up next to another huge Jewish value, which you know, which I mentioned before. And so in that case, when you've got two Jewish values that are in some very few instances in conflict, it can be tough to remember why one is important over the other.
So it's as long as you have someone who can come in there and respect the freedom of religions, that's an acceptable solution. Whereby I can go in and out as I wish, I can be there, worship at my leisure, with respect. That's an ideal situation. When Saladin took over the city of Jerusalem from the Crusaders, he went in, and you know what the Crusaders did in Jerusalem. I mean, they came in and killed Christians and Muslims and everyone there. And he came, and after all this, he gave the Crusaders a safe passage. And he said, let Jerusalem be a free city. Anyone can worship what they want in the way they want in it. So that's, you know, as long as someone can go in and show that attitude of forgiveness, of love, because it's the city of all religions. So regardless of who's in charge, you know, as long as we have the stable society, the freedom of practicing religion.
Well, in a perfect world, it would be an open city. You know, it would be available to the three great faiths on an equal basis. In a perfect world, there would be equality. You know, people wouldn't be excluded from economic life or social life or political life based on their religion. You know, in a perfect world, you know, folks would live with equal protection of the law, not in fear, or have their education stopped, you know, because they happen to be Palestinian, or, you know, in a perfect world, people wouldn't fear for the safety of their kids.
Because of what Jerusalem has come to mean to so many different faiths, I think that Jerusalem can only be truly a city of peace or a city of wholeness if every faith to whom it's important is allowed to participate in living there.